When it comes to the healing process, or indeed when it comes to implementing any self awareness strategy in order to enhance your mental, emotional, and spiritual health, generally a person comes from a place of some level of pain or suffering. I mean, it's true what they say that oftentimes you have to be broken down before you can be broken open. And I think oftentimes people come from a very vulnerable space when it comes to looking to develop self awareness and looking to have a greater understanding of who they are. However, that being said, I think particularly with the popularity of a lot of these concepts on social media, that oftentimes we can be very selective and have a lot of misconceptions about what we need to do in order to be a more evolved person. And it's important that we look at things from the middle ground, or that we have a very, I suppose, aware and awake concept of what being a good person actually involves. And I love that Buddha's concept of the middle way, that it takes us away from that extremist thinking that we tend to apply so frequently in our lives. I suppose I see a lot of people talking about emotional awareness, and it's funny because we tend to oscillate between one or the other. We're either very, very emotionally aware, so much so that we wallow in how we feel, or else we just completely avoid having to deal with our emotions altogether. And it's about having a middle ground. It's about being able to recognize how we feel, but also being able to regulate it. I mean, you have to be able to allow yourself whatever the feeling is that comes up. But that being said, you don't have to act on it, and you don't have to keep yourself drowning in it. You can recognize it compassionately, you can feel it in your body, and then you can find a way to move beyond it. And it's about, as I said, taking that level of accountability with your emotions, learning to regulate as opposed to just recognize. Likewise, when it comes to the whole concept of self-compassion, self-compassion and forgiveness is so important. However, that being said, it's not an excuse for bad behavior. You need to be accountable. You need to recognize that although you may be in pain and although you may be suffering, you still have a responsibility to try to be the best person that you can be, to be kind to other people, to recognize their needs outside of your own. And that kind of brings me around to the self-care side of things. Again, we assume that it's like almost this me fain attitude. It's all about me, what I need, looking after me. And we're very, very close to self-centeredness and self-righteousness. So it's about recognizing that sometimes self-care is about accountability. Sometimes self-care is recognizing that what you're doing is actually stepping on other people in order to look after yourself. And again, I hear that term bandied about, that self-care isn't selfish. Sometimes it is, particularly if people very much select what they want from the concept and just apply it any old way in order to suit themselves all the time. Similarly with boundaries, I mean, people tend to use boundaries as a way of punishment or a way of getting their own way, whereas boundaries are about knowing what your core limitations are, and I suppose expressing them in a very healthy manner, in a very fair manner to other people, and meeting other people in the middle. And it's about, I suppose, approaching all of these things with a very open mind, very open hearted to other people's ideas, because again, when we become more self-aware, we become more aware of what our needs are, we become more aware of the things that hurts us, and that is really, really essential to our evolution as a person. But that being said, that doesn't mean that our core values and our core beliefs are concreted things that we need to adhere to. We have to be flexible. We have to be open to the fact that we may be holding on to ideas and beliefs and values that aren't reflective of who it is that we want to be, i.e. a better person. So it's about recognizing that sometimes you aren't quite the same that you make yourself out to be, that sometimes you cause pain to other people through your adherence to your beliefs and your ways of thinking. And it's about being open to new ways. And again, I love that concept of beginner's mind, again another Buddhist one, and it's basically saying that a beginner's mind is open to every possibility, whereas an expert mind is open to only one. And you want to be that open-minded person. You want to be open to being wrong, being open to new ideas, being able to see other people's perspective, because again, it's kind of this idea of, okay, well, I feel like this, so everyone else has to kind of row in with it, and that's not how it works. I mean, you are entitled to feel how you feel, and you need to take care of yourself compassionately in that, but you also need to be able to responsibly regulate how you feel and decide whether or not it's appropriate to take action, and look at how much your feelings are impacting on other people. And if they're continuously having a negative impact on other people through no fault of their own, then you need to take a look at that. Now, that's not saying you go back into a place of repression, but it's recognizing that you need to either work through them, or you need to have a conversation, or you need to do something maturely and responsibly, as opposed to just wallowing and kind of looking for the easy way out. Because we do look for the most appealing option, we do look for the easy option, and a lot of the work in self-discovery and self-inquiry and self-development isn't easy work. It's about taking ownership of all aspects of the self, our shadow side, as well as all of the parts of ourselves that would be deemed more positive, and it's the same with the whole idea of positive thinking. I mean, generally people, it's near use positivity as a form of avoidance with having to deal with difficult areas of their life, and it's recognizing that positivity is very, very close to completion utter avoidance and burying your head in the sand. You do not have to put a positive perspective on something straight away. You need to be realistic and pragmatic. And yes, it is important to try to look optimistically at the more positive sides of your life, to pay attention to the more positive things that you can find gratitude for and appreciation for. But that's not about turning everything on its head. Sometimes things just suck ass, and you have to allow yourself to be with that. You have to be resilient and robust enough to be able to suffer sometimes, and to be able to struggle, and to recognize that shit happens, and that sometimes you're just going to be sad, and sometimes you're going to be angry, and sometimes you're going to feel let down and disappointed and disillusioned. But that's okay. That's part and parcel of life, and you have the strength to work through that and come out a stronger person. So it's about being conscientious. It's about also recognizing that your self-care and your self-awareness is important, but it's also important to facilitate care of others and to give to others and to allow others to express their, I suppose, reality and their perspective, and to take it on board and to be very aware of their emotions as opposed to always thinking about your own, and it's this kind of very open way of living that will really enhance all of your relationships, including the one with yourself. Because again, the more we become very introspected, which is, what oftentimes people think that creating self-awareness is. I mean, you can just become so bogged down in your own issues and how you feel and how things impact on you that you nearly shut people out. It's a very egotistical, small-minded way of being. So yes, reflect as frequently as possible, but also learn how to think wisely, how to think kindly, and how to show up for the world and be the person that the world needs you to be. Because again, the more you do that, the more purposeful you will feel, the more fulfilled you will feel, and the more your relationships will flourish. I hope everyone is having an amazing Sunday, and I will talk to you again soon.